Welcome to episode 18 of the Corey Shepherd podcast. Welcome to all the new listeners. Welcome back to everybody who's been listening. I hope everybody had a great week. It's been a long week, plenty happening, so plenty to get into. But I had to start with an apology because sometimes I plan some topics and somehow they don't ever make it into the episode. When I done put it out, then I just remember. And I don't know how I could forget to salute a man like Grovey. Rest in peace and condolences to his family, because Grovey was a great one. It's so funny to say was still, but a great one. And for those who don't know, Grovey I know him as St. Anthony's coach for a long time and impacting a lot of lives outside of just coaching. Like, if you ever play sports, you know important coaches are to you in your upcoming years. Like, I remember people like Mr. Ding Chong and Mr. Ramdas and man like Beef and Tranquil. I'll never forget coaches like them who just was influential people in your lives as a whole, not just on the field, you know. So salute to Grovey, and I know he would have moved to QRC, so a lot of the younger people know him as QRC football coach, but rest in peace to Grovey. And it's a kind of rest in peace week too, because I know everybody would have seen over the last week. I mean, I was lucky, to be honest. Just before I started episode 17 of this podcast, I pick up something and see Sprangalang pass away and plan a whole thing to talk about. And just as a start recording, I saw the thing going around saying it wasn't real. So it's like, I feel so relieved that I didn't put out something like that just written in ink and permanent out there. But I mean, man, rally next week and go on to better places. So rest in peace to Sprangalang. We have plenty to say about Sprangalang tonight, you know, but as we resting in peace and sending condolences to people, as a St. James boy and a St. James legend passed away this week, so I'll have to forgive me. I'm going to do some St. James talk again today. If you don't know St. James, visit now. You know, the border closed. You might as well do your tourism in and around St. James. It's the best place for you to visit right now if you can't leave the country. But Alvon Molino, rest in peace, my brother. And condolences to his family and to his son, Von Line. Alvon is a man around. Anybody who knows St. James, you know Alvon. And Alvon was a person who was always, if I could put it, like, he's an exemplar when we're growing up. Because one thing I always proud about for St. James, many things I'm proud about, but St. James is a place everybody used to have a little business. And that's since I know myself. Like, Larry used to fix TV, Miss Barbara and them have an electrical shop with Don and them. And then Ronald, I still go by Ronald to trim up to today. They had a bar on the main road. As a matter of fact, their family had 2 or 3 bars on the main road at different points. It had a little parts place like Stockies around. And it's just a place. And it's just like that now, because when you go opposite St. James, like they're Porky and them have their car wash. It's just a place where people always had business. And Alvon was one of them people who drive that and was an example of that for me, because I remember as a young fella coming up, I guess had to be a young teenager or 11, 12, them kind of age. And Alvon was a sign man. As the first person we know as a sign man. Them days he used to do more painting. It wasn't so much graphic work yet. It was more painting, and he was artistic and thing. And even before, while he was doing his signage and thing, Alvon was the original barber in St. James. Salute Frankie too, right? But Alvon was the one for the youths. Frankie was the old people barber. But Alvon was the one for the youths, doing a little fresh fade and little, you know what I mean? Alvon was that guy. And he was always artistic. He still stayed that way through his whole life, and he used to paint. And I remember there was one time when Alvon started doing airbrush painting and airbrushing jerseys, and everybody in St. James, he had to have a Von Line jersey. So the name of his company was Von Line, and he used to paint up a thing like mine one used to say Corey Fresh and a big set of clouds, and it was bad. And at the bottom of it, he signed little Von Line and thing, and that's just how the dude was. And he moved from that to owning one of the first large format printers. If I'm pretty sure right about that. He had a company down in Sea Lots there, same Von Line, and he was doing large format printing. So when they started printing out billboards in full, Alvon was one of the first people I know who was doing that. And he was just that kind of person, very, very real St. James man. Playing basketball was his thing. I remember as a little fella, one time, make something out of Lego, boy. One big structure, trying to hold it together to walk around on the block to show people it. And I see Alvon coming up. Them days, Alvon, till Alvon dead, he's a Yankee. Alvon feel he's Magic Johnson. Hey, Corey, man, what's up, man? And Alvon see me coming and hit me a bongs pass. Well, me know what to do with my Lego now. Man, mash up my whole Lego set, boy. Everything down in the pavement in the drain. And he's like, man, what did I do? What did I know where Alvon used to get an accent. But he could have play ball, like men like doctors and robots and them used to play ball with him and thing. And I mean, fast forward to today, Alvon, even in his later days, Alvon converts himself fully into being a real countryman. We used to go up Toko by Alvon. He had a place on the edge of a cliff there, just a real nice lookout. And just a spot. Alvon, you know, he stay a character all his life, you know, because one time I gone up there with some partners. I say, well, I have a friend with a house in Toko. I could talk to him and see what kind of rate we could get and go up for the weekend and thing. Alvon said, no problem, man. And we organize and everything. I pass by Alvon. Get my key, we going up. Alvon come up too. Alvon like, once Alvon here lime, he lime. You know, these partners, all of them married. There's a whole married squad. Everybody, but I think most people was married. And boy, we gone in the river. First, Alvon drive through the river. He had a 4x4, I think either Land Rover or Range Rover. And a Hilux, and boy, that man carry and drive through the river. So it was real nice experience. And he drive now all the way up the river. Now I thinking, okay, we reach the river, you park on the bank there and you bed. But nah, not Alvon. Alvon is extra. So Alvon drive in the river, drive all the way up the river to some secluded part. This is the whole van in the river. And we jump out there and bathe. And boy, man, with their wife, and we having a good time. You know, next thing a man points out and show me Alvon is bathing naked. Alvon naked as he born, boy, going down the river. I'm feeling so ashamed. Them people must say, what kind of man this bring me around? But boy, salute to Alvon and rest in peace. Everybody had the ups and the downs in life. And I mean, the way you go wasn't the nicest thing. But to me, you know what I mean? He loved that country life and thing. And he gets to spend his last set of days up in Toko before some tragedy befall him. And I know he'd be happy in his last times before anything happened up there. And salute to Alvon. But anyway, I mean, funny how these things just tie together. Like when I was telling that story on an earlier podcast about Danger, I remember when Danger died or get killed, and I was talking to Alvon at the time about it. Alvon was always a progressive fella, so Alvon asking me, Corey, what we had to do, boy? And I young too. I'm more like Danger and them age, but I guess he might have been seeing me taking different steps and making some different choices. And he asking me, what to do, boy, about youths wrong here? What we go do? What is the problem? Why so much youths going astray? And you know what I mean? What we need to do? And he always used to say, what youths need is options. He always used to talk about that. Like, we need more options. We have to create opportunities for them to do this, do that. If it's sports, if it's schoolwork, if it's the art and thing. Because Alvon, like I talk about Damien on this podcast all the time, and he was one who said, he has his own company now, Graphic House, right? And he, even after Alvon passing, was saying that Alvon is who gave him his first break. I remember that clearly. Damien used to be in Alvon yard right there on Vidal Street, I guess learning. I didn't know he was learning at the time. It looked like he knew what he was doing. So, but Alvon gave him his break. And that's how Alvon always was, always trying to give youths a platform, an opportunity, something so that they could see their way. And when Danger passed away, he told me, he kind of called me, he said, Corey, you know, I see how he was living and I see the road he was going down. I know he would end up here. So I end up talking to the child mother and I take out an insurance policy on him and I gave her to hold. And I find that was that, I mean, as a young, how old I must have been them time? Was it 21, 22 when that happened? And I find that was a real progressive thing to do, like to be thinking about somebody. Danger is not, Alvon is not family to us or family to Danger or Ainsley or anything like that. But it's just a man who, St. James is a family like that. It's just a little unit right around there. And for him to think about that and do that, that was really something else. And I mean, what else we could say about rest in peace to him and condolences, especially to his son. Boy, everything will be all right. Yeah, your father was a good one. And it's just another one of them things. We look this week at Sprangalang passing away and is a local cultural icon, a legend. Just like Alvon is a St. James legend. Well, Sprangalang is I don't know what to call him, a Trinidad legend, Trinidadian Tobagonian legend. The whole Caribbean, because I was looking at some clips of him and stuff and I saw him. They have one particular clip of Sprangalang online that really nice, boy, where he mash up a man in a crowd, a heckler. Just look for Sprangalang heckler. And that man destroy a heckler, boy. The fella only talking while Sprangalang doing his little set. And boy, Sprangalang leaning to that man, and that was something else. And another clip I saw with him was, you remember Oliver? Oliver Yelajo. They remember that show? And Sprangalang come out on Oliver's show. And to me, Oliver is, of course, a legend as well. Jamaican comedian. But Sprangalang came out there and did his thing. And Sprangalang was unapologetically Trinidadian. Think of the name Sprangalang. You know, to call itself. And I heard somebody was on the radio this week saying that the reason he chose the name Sprangalang or where it came out from is because he said the cocaine thing was ISU and everybody calling people Spranger. So he put a positive spin on the term Spranger and come up with Sprangalang. I don't know how true, but I think it was Errol Fabian who was saying that. And that's just like who he was. I met him one time, real short, because there was one time he was on radio on Power 102, I believe, with Anna Roberts. It was one of the better shows. I guess, I like talk shows. It was one of the better talk shows on air at the time because Sprangalang, and he used to be a man, he used to be saying down there, I sure he used to be reading papers the whole time because at times he ain't hearing Sprang saying nothing at all. But when he talked, he had a way that nobody else couldn't talk while he was talking. And it's because he had a library of information, wealth, all that information about the culture. And when I say the culture, he was about the pan, about the arts, about the music. And he know the politics. He's just like a walking historian. And I mean, you know where I will go is like, how do we document or archive people like Sprang, who've been, his life was so different at different stages. Like plenty of people might remember him as a radio announcer. But I remember when he was the host for the tent. And I mean, oh gosh, but even before that, he was on Gael. Remember Draxi? I am the cultural Sprangalang. That was something like you looking forward on that Gael show to see Sprangalang come out that little door and do his thing. And he used to, and that's what I mean when I say unapologetically Trinidadian. Because he used to say, we're going to give you some jazzy. And it might make sense to people who listen know who not from that era, right? But in that era, I would have been in primary school and getting licks to learn how to speak properly and talk the Queen's English and them kind of thing, which I've never been comfortable talking no Queen's English. I kind of like to talk how I talk. So when I hear people now talking about code switching and them kind of thing, I don't know what that is, I know what code switching means. But think about it, when we were young, in the 80s and thing, you couldn't code switch with our primary school teachers and thing. You had to talk the Queen's proper English and the th and the sh. And I still can't say some of them things. I not good at that at all. But when you look at it, it's people like Sprangalang who really give me the confidence, if I want to put it like that, to talk like that and not feel bad about myself, or to put it brutally is you used to feel stupid that kind of way when you're talking your normal twang. People could talk down to you. I remember a time this episode is a bit too much RIPs, but rest in peace to my aunt, Auntie Saka, who's like a mother to me. And I remember being in tongue with her at carnival time, boy. Children, kiddies carnival. Me and Gabby, salute to Gabby, her daughter. That's my cousin, right? And I remember she was a primary school teacher, the real McCoy, dedicated to her craft. She ended up, she retired as the principal of Newton Girls, Mrs. Rousseau, for people who don't know as Auntie Saka. But she was in tongue with us, boy, me and Gabby as little children, and she was talking to a vendor. And she was, the vendors, them times, it's just a cooler by the side of the road, right? It's no big bar like where you see now carnival time and thing. It's just a lady with a cooler selling her little thing, making the money. And the road pack, the pavement pack, and she have these two little children walking with her we down on the ground. And I remember her going up to this lady and say, "Hello, ma'am, do you sell soft drink?" The lady say, "What?" She says, "Soft drinks. I would like to have 2 soft drinks." She said, "What?" She says, "Soft, you don't have soft drink." She said, "Oh God, lady, if you want sea drink, say you want sea drink." I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. So what we calling code switching and thing now, it wasn't as acceptable then. And boy, listen, not Gabby, Auntie Saka mother, them was sticklers for being proper. You told boy you had to talk proper and sit down properly, and oh man, she was something else, boy. And I know how I reached quite. What I was talking about again. Yeah, I was talking about the idea of code switching. Like youths now talk a lot about code switching, meaning that you're going between, I guess, proper English, if you want to call it that, and our English. I find our English proper, to be honest. But it's people like Sprangalang who went on platforms like they went on in places like Gael and end up on, that would have been on TTT, and really just talk like they self and make it okay for us to talk like ourselves, because you couldn't call Sprangalang no dunce. It was clear that he was no dunce. He knew a lot about a lot. Just a man with general knowledge, a real historian. So, I mean, when somebody like him pass away, it's really... I always battle with this, right? I wonder if we're losing something or we gaining something, because you lose a great one, right? But a part of it is that he come back in the conversation and a light shed on his work, at least for a short space of time. And I find that to be a real important thing. So I always battle with that if it's a loss or a gain or whatever. But I'm sure his family would grieve and everything, and we as a nation would grieve. But it's nice to see a man like Sprang in the news for a good solid week or two, and his YouTube views going up. It shows that he reaching some people who he might not reach before, who might not pay attention to him, who might not know who he was. But I saw all the TV stations did a little feature on him and thing from several different perspectives. Power 102 and Third Base, salute to Third Base too. He had a real nice call-in program with several people who would have worked with Sprangalang from several different walks of life, from Anil Roberts, and it was really, really good to hear those guys. And Anil Roberts said himself, Anil Roberts loud and like to talk. He himself say, boy, when Sprangalang talking, you just had to listen. And it's true, he was just that kind of person. And my short meeting with him was just like that too, because you might meet a lot of people who their on-air personality or their on-stage personality very, very different to who they are when you meet them on the street. But Sprangalang wasn't like that. I meet him downstairs per hour or two, and he's the exact same thing. You're bound to laugh, you're bound to learn something. It don't matter how short you're around him for. You will laugh and you will get something to hold on to. So rest in peace to Sprangalang, and thank you so much for the contributions you make to this country and what you do, because think about it, all I come in here every week and do is talk about Trinidadian things and laugh and talk a little history and a little music and a little culture and a little politics. So I feel personally like I standing on Sprangalang's shoulders. It would not be none of this if it wasn't for Sprangalang. And it run deep, because a part of the man career, when he do the MCing thing, so much of things he do already, but he was one of the first people I know who was he singing MC. Like I was saying, we used to say singing songmen and singing DJs, like Third Base was one, Hoppy and them had sing and thing too. Sprangalang was one of the originators because he was an MC basically in the tent, and he started sing songs, boy, and from them songs he sing, one of the Sprangalang songs is one of the first songs I ever learned to play on the Quattro, and when I play it, you know why, right? Because them days I'm now trying to learn on the Quattro. I'm now trying to learn to play. And I struggling to remember chords and to know chords and them things. Sprangalang make a song where he basically tell you what to play. He make the lyrics easy. Is a skiffler's paradise. When you see a skiffling with your instrument, Sprangalang sing one way, anybody could play it. You say, two chord, two wonderful chord, two beautiful chord. Oh God, here chord. This is not a chordless. This chord is the best. Even if you're deaf, it's B flat and F. Two chord to horsey, two chord to donkey, two chord, two wonderful chord, two beautiful chord. Oh God, here chord. You ain't have to know music. These two chord is basic. Two chord in your puffin to take you to heaven. Two chord to your party. Two chord to your fete. Two chord make you happy. Two chord make you sweat. is God. Too wonderful God. Too beautiful God. Oh God, here God. He say, too God for sparrow, too God for catch, too God for chutney. I go make the switch. Two for Sunny Man, two for Yankaran, Ramla Jiwabu. I go gishi two God, too wonderful God, too beautiful God. Oh God, here God. Two God for Tommy, two God for Nikki, two for Fabian, two for Bill Trotman, two God in the bumbo. Alright, what are you for? You get the point. The man sing a two God song is the greatest song they ever create, because when they sing that, I could actually play with us with somebody when they sing that. So, boy, my hat's off to Sprangalang all wrong, because he influenced, as I say, this thing built off of what he do and the things, the chances he take and the things, and he went far, because he didn't stop with the two chord. If you remember, he do a good bit of soca parang too. He do one with we only knows and grr, oh gid, and he had one with Buenos dias amigos. That means how are you? Compliment of the season to you. May all your dreams come true. But right now this is what I would like you to do. Bring the rom-com this Christmas. And if you know, a Christmas man, right? And the parang thing. And he had one too with we like to play this one too, like dance, papi, dance, papi, dance, papi, dance. Dance, dance, dance in your palazzo pants. And when you're whining, you go down low. And when you're dancing, you go down slow. And nothing too complicated. He just had nice ones. But it was a strange thing with him too. Like, he never used to perform the soca parang and them. So he would do MCing for parang shows and people calling on him to bring the songs. And I don't know, he just never used to like to perform them too much. But if you get a chance and you could take in that 2-chord song, just look for Sprangalang 2-chord and you will see him do it in Calypso Review, boy. How the crowd rocking with that as an MC. Your thing is to keep the show going, and that man sing that with some tempo and have people going with that song, boy. And it's just is every, like, a lot of the things we do now is really again on the backs of people like him, and we had to pay respects and keep the memory alive and keep his work alive, And in looking at Sprangalang, I went through some videos, boy, and I came across a lot of old footage of the thespians in our time. I guess we were real young, but I come across Calabash Ali, boy. Remember Calabash Ali? That Calabash Ali show was something else, boy. When it had characters like Papa George and Mabel and Danny and Shirley there, and 10-foot Tina on the scene, and it's just watching that, boy, and just it's so the best way I could put it is so Trinidadian. I find we have so much stored in our accent and the way that we talk. That is something we should probably teach and tell people how to use our language. Let me make you see how that proper English and the Queen's English. Let me have proper Trini too. So people know how to talk and not do things like spell wine, WHINE. I remember when texting now started to become a popular thing. When I was maybe a older teenager or young adult. And I used to text in we normal lingua, and people used to laugh, boy. Everybody's be like, boy, why are you texting? I was like, boy, I texting how I talking, yes, just how I talk. I texting just one. And look how that become to be that come to be the norm now. I find that we have to take a little more pride in ourselves, man. And when I watch Calabash Ali, well, of course, Beulah is something else on that show. She is her acting, and she had this back and forth thing with Papa George. Papa George loved Beulah too bad, and Beulah, boy, she's studying the old man. She didn't want to thing with the old man, but if nobody in watching, a little kiss could pass. And then she's studying Danny. It was nice to see. And they had to salute people like Freddie Kissoon again, because they create a space for us to be us unapologetically. And I don't know if people pay a lot of attention to the fact that those things, You know, the Yankees say representation matters. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like, coming up in a time where you're only hearing American music and have a proper standard for how you're supposed to talk and all these kind of things could really make you lose what is your real culture or be ashamed of what is your real culture. So I was glad to go back into some of the archives and see some of this thing on Calabash Alley where people was talking like themselves, using our normal slangs, dressing the way we dress, being Trini. You know what I mean? And even Sprang with the towel over his shoulder and saying, we can't, I don't think we could afford to lose ourselves. And this era so modern now, like, you, like, listen to our children talk. When you listen to our children, when I say anybody who from 30, once you pass 30 and thing, I don't know young people out there trying talking, but like, especially if you're uptown and you make a little thing and you come out the hood and you're going to live somewhere nice, all these little children have an accent. All of them. My son is the same thing. When you hear him talking, I guess it's from the constant YouTuber thing and all them things, and all of them want to prank one another. And boy, listen, local content. We need that space for local content. Bad. We can't let these youths go so far from the core of the thing that they lose themselves. No, knock it. They had to do the YouTube thing and all these things. We do it too. We do a lot of the foreign shows and the foreign music and them thing, but we had to find a way, or avenue to get these youths to keep the core, keep the backbone of who we are, keep our culture, keep our thing alive. You know what I mean? And when you look at the work that people like Freddie Kissoon and Shirley King and Sprangalang and them do to keep that work alive, it can't be discounted. And when we're talking about keeping that work alive, another thing play off this week too, with another stalwart, a general, a legend, who do so much to keep that culture alive that it was an awkward discussion I was seeing going on online. Because, of course, that person I'm talking about is Errol Fabian, right? So the headlines for people who might not know is that Errol Fabian went live and was making an appeal saying that First Citizens Bank was there by his home to remove his possessions and so on because they're taking back his house basically. And his house and his studio is the same place. Now, the studio we're talking about is the same Gael. I just mentioned Gael, right? Gael, I know, starts off as a TV show, if I write on TTT, and develop all the way into a channel. It might have been a production house or something, eh? But if I remember right, Sprangalang had something called Banyan Productions, while Errol Fabian had the Gael. And the bank was, rightfully coming back for his things because he couldn't pay his loan. Now, he went online and make an appeal, which I understand is not the first public appeal he making. And his appeal was, listen, they come back and taking his things and they're putting it out on the road, which would include his studio equipment and so on. Now, that is already, I can imagine an experience like that. That can't be easy on nobody, no matter who you are. But add to that studio equipment is Gael's studio equipment. Put on top of that, for instance, if you put it out in the element rainfall, that is a lot of money you're losing. As making my own little venture into media now, I understand how expensive equipment and thing is. It's no joke. So if something was to happen to that thing, that would be bad for him. But if his archives was to get damaged, that would be bad for all of us, I think. Because on that same radio interview with Third Base, Errol Fabian said, no, Third Base was saying, that man was such an encyclopedia walking it. We should have documented and have more of what you have. And Errol Fabian say, without batting an eye, he say, boy, listen, it's hours and hours and hours of Dennis Hall I have in archives. I think, obviously, he does. Because they work together, not just with Gael and the idea of Draxi and thing. They would have worked together their whole careers. Two of them was two comedians, they were counterparts, you know what I mean? They would, he would have all that. And Sprangalang wasn't on Gael once or twice. It's decades we're talking about. So I immediately, when I see Errol Fabian make that appeal, I start to feel bad one time. But I remember I tell Oli before, I'm not the best man of these things because you tell me two things, I feeling sorry and thing, right? So forgive me. I realized other people also think, and then somebody started, I think it was his brother, started a GoFundMe. And within that, if it's an hour, it was plenty. He needed $360,000 or so to pay off the bank, and he had 60,000 in the GoFundMe within an hour or two. It didn't take long at all, which is kudos to everybody in Trinidad who decided to contribute and come through and contribute to save what I consider to be a cultural icon and legend, and also the archives that he would have built over time. It's so important. We cannot afford to lose that. But I see a strange thing happen online where they had some people who not only was against the idea of him asking for it, but decided to vocalize it and put it in black and white. That you must be more responsible and pay a mortgage and these kind of things. And if you're irresponsible and think, don't make the population, don't try to, what was it like guilt trip people, or we not responsible for your thing, we have our own response. I say, but what we coming to? First I started wonder if people know who they're talking about. But then I started to hear backstories about Errol doing this before and all them kind of things. And I mean, that not really moving me. It would not matter to me how much times he do that. And I'll explain why. What Errol Fabian has done for this country cannot be repaid. Now, I shouldn't say has done. Now, I should say continues to do. And before I even get to his contribution, which I want to believe is obvious, right? But if it's not, let me talk about this before. They said that he borrowed $700,000 from the bank. He paid back $900,000 of that $700,000 so far. Well, I mean with interest and everything, right? Whatever is the total amount to be repaid. He paid $900,000 and he owes $360,000, which means that a loan for $700,000, when you add interest, it's coming up to $1.2 million. Now, banking in this country is a funny thing, right? Because if my maths isn't so great, right? But 700 by 2 is 1.4, and 1.2 just a little short of that. So I don't know what's the percentage, but it's sounding like you're paying back a very big amount on the principal amount of 700, right? But you sign your contract, papi, that's what you have to pay back, that's what you have to pay back. Because all of us have mortgages, and I just try not to think about what I pay in the bank overall. I just want to pay every month, and hopefully I have the money month end, and I just pay whatever they tell me to pay. And whenever it's done, I'm not adding it back up neither, because that is just to frustrate myself. I signed my contract and I know I had to pay, and I was glad to get the loan when I get. So I don't want to frustrate myself by thinking too much about that, honestly. It's the same when you borrow for a car from the bank. Those started to talk about credit card interest and them things. There's a whole next story. And like people like to bad talk courts, when you're paying courts double and triple and thing, but to borrow 700 and you end up paying back 1.2. Now, no doubt a lot of it, if he was defaulting and things, he could have a lot of issues that making the final amount he had to repay higher, right? But he have 360 now. When he tell me 700,000 is the loan, immediately I know that is not the loan he take to buy that house. That can't be a mortgage for no. Everybody who live in here know you can't get nothing for 700,000. So I started to say, boy, because of my own experience, my belief is, and I see it in the papers too, but my belief is that is a business loan he might have take for 700,000. Now, when you're talking business money and you're talking individual money, it's two whole different worlds, eh? But people like to hear business money and compare it to their own individual money. So when they hear you owing 360,000, them start to think about them and your own salary and your own repayment and things. It really don't work that way. In the greater scheme of things, a business, a media house like that, 360,000 is not a lot of money. It is not a lot of money. It's not worth, that 360,000 not worth a man like Errol Fabian going through what he went through. And the assets that Errol Fabian have, which I feel like it belonged to me too. It's not worth that going away. But anyway, one of the things that I find the discussions that people not having is how come the bank could take away a house and all your assets for a business loan? And I'll tell you why. Because the bank in this country, when you need to go and get a loan as a business owner, they are going to ask you for your house as security. First, they're going to ask you what you have. And if you're going for a loan to do the thing and you don't have the cash to put against it, they would prefer you put cash. But the next thing they're going to ask you for is your property. What property the business own and them kind of thing. You know what I mean? When the business own no property, they're going to ask you to sign a personal guarantee. And when you sign that personal guarantee, the limited liability thing that you sign up for in the beginning when you register your company, it's not there anymore. You sign away a limited liability. The liability no longer limited only to the company. they could come for your own personal assets, because what you did is personally guarantee any debt that the company have to the bank, you will personally pay it as an individual. So I'm saying it like this. Errol Fabian is different from Gael by law. Gael is Gael and Errol Fabian is Errol Fabian. Two different entities by law. But if Gael owing $360,000 and he signed a personal guarantee, all this is assumptions, he signed a personal guarantee, the bank could come back after his house. Now, why would I make such an assumption? Because I have been through this. We go through this all the time. And I want to go as far as to say, when a black man go by the bank, you're going to have to put your home as security. Or, you listen, they're going to ask you for 100% security on your loan. I don't know if people other than black people have this issue, but I know that we have this issue. So whoever not having it, kudos to them. I'm glad for them, because we have all heard stories about people in this country walking into the bank and getting anything that they want, unsecured, and starting big, big businesses. While small businesses struggle. They want every asset that you have. As a small business owner, and if you believe in your idea enough, and you, number one, you think it profitable enough, or it will be profitable enough. Number two is a passion project and something you want to see done. You see them things, you will probably say, if I put my house, it will be safe. So I'm making assumptions, but I'm making assumptions based on my own experience and what the bank is asking for. The bank asking you to secure so when I say secure everything, just in case, to be clear, if I asking for $700,000, I have to provide $700,000 worth of security. Now, I don't know how your houses work, right? But the way my houses work, if I go to borrow $700,000, my house value more than $700,000, right? I cannot take off a piece of the bedroom and get them the back and just the part where the tank stand is and say, well, that's worth $700,000, right? I have to sign the whole house to them. Now, it don't mean they will take your whole house. What it means is that they could seize the asset, sell the house, take back their $700,000 and give you back the rest minus their fees that them alone know how to calculate and them alone know what they pay. And bailiff, if you're working as a bailiff and you getting top dollar salary, that is what the bank going to charge. So after they get back their money and all the fees associated with taking that asset and selling the asset from your lawyer fees that you'll never be able to calculate, then you get the balance. So when I see the house that Errol Fabian in and the area that he is in, I understand already that house is worth plenty more than the $360,000 that he have. The house, the assets that you have in that house, that media, cameras and all that equipment, lighting and this and that, that's worth plenty more than $360,000. And the archives that he have there, it have no price on that. $360,000 can't pay that. Right? Them archives worth more to us. That is ours. I fasten up myself. That belong to me personally. That cannot be destroyed and cannot be taken away by anybody and should be owned by Errol in perpetuity, in my opinion, because that is ours. Somebody decides to do the work. He decides to do the work that he do for a lifetime to make sure that is ours. If you don't understand what I mean, call Errol now. Message him on Facebook and you start to understand who he is and the work that he do. Thankless and profitless, because it's hard to make a profit if all your whole focus is local content and culture and things. Talk to anybody else who's doing it. So what the bank was going to do, and I'm not putting the bank at fault. The bank do what they do. And if we always in a position where we have to go to the bank to help us to do things, we had to face the conditions until we could come up from under the bank. But the bank was going to take all those things, which would be valued in millions of dollars, seize it, and if he can't pay, sell off what they had to sell off until they get a 360 plus their fees, which might be an extra 360, and then give him back whatever it is. Now, again, you can't sell the tank stand and the back bedroom and you sell thing and half of the kitchen. So what will end up happening with a man like me is they will sell my entire house and give me back. So let me say my house sell for $1 million. And I had owed the bank 360. It's my fault, right? I couldn't pay and I signed my guarantee. All my fault, my responsibility. But they will sell the house for the $1 million or a fast sale too. So they might sell it for 800 or 750. And when that house selling for 750, that not going in no Guardian or no Express for you and me to buy. Somebody inside, they go have a friend or themselves will buy it. But it's quick sale they're looking for them and looking for them to stay in the market for 6 months. So they sell for about 800. They take out the 360 and they hand me back the balance. Let me say the balance is 400,000 overall. I know how to take that and figure out where I'm going to start from. How I'm going to buy back piece of land or buy back a house and them kind of things. So this is what they was going to do, Errol. Now again, Errol's fault. Errol went and take the loan. Errol know what he signed to. He big enough. If he didn't know, he should have known. And he ended up in this position now. So I don't have no dispute with that. Where I find in difficulty is why people so upset that other people was going to put money. Why you so upset that you have to vocalize and say that Errol is a smart man? And you know the thing that keep coming up over and over and over is he run for election. Why he didn't put the 5,000 where he pays the deposit. And then I start to say, you see me, when you start to talk so, I just started watching Siri. I watching your side eye. Because as far as I concerned, once it come back down to what he do for election and what he think, is the ketchup and mustard thing coming back again. He run against the ketchup and he run against the mustard, and he must never disrespect the ketchup and mustard in Trinidad, because great is the ketchup and the mustard lasts forever. So, but again, all right, so maybe it's not politics. Maybe nobody care if you run and think they're genuinely saying if he had paid the 5,000, the bank, come on now. If he owing 360 and he had paid 5,000, the bank would not come and well, they never deal with the bank out. But in your mind, the bank, and I don't know why I ended up in Facebook arguments with people. I don't know. I promised myself I wasn't doing it again, but I went right back there. Because I'm trying to say, number one, the bank was still going to take it back if he had paid that 5,000. And in your mind, when you're owing the bank, right? If you, like you say you're owing the bank, you mustn't do nothing else. All you must do is pay the bank. And I ain't saying no, he wrong, whatever it might be, he lost the place. But why is it wrong for him to make an appeal for help? And even more so, how it could be wrong if I decide to put some money in a GoFundMe? The GoFundMe was $20 here and $30 so and $60 and $75 and somebody put $100 and all that add up. And I was real happy to see that. I feel warm on my inside because I realize I'm not alone. For people to do that, I'm sure from local and abroad, is because people see what he is and who he is and what his contribution has been. And they decide that regardless of who is at fault or regardless of who is responsible, they're willing to extend themselves to help the situation. I can't do nothing but respect that and be very, very confused when anybody else have such a problem with that he mustn't. So in other words, you're saying he mustn't get nothing. He must go and lose his house. I see one person on Facebook say he don't make his millions and he this and that. And I'm thinking, so what? In my mind, I'm thinking, so what? Errol Fabian should be a billionaire for what I see he do with culture in this country. Because I was talking, and the funny thing about it is the same people who were saying that was like R.I.P. Sprangalang, and I thinking, what? These two people inseparable. How you could be against helping Errol Fabian, but in the next post you could say R.I.P. Sprangalang. Is a real odd thing to me. It is odd. I can't understand it, especially in a country where just last week my timeline full of candle for Preez. Well, I hear Preez is Prezi. Yes, Stacey put me in my place. She say you only talking about Preez. The man name is Prezi. Like she in the DSS too. So Prezi is the head of the drug susu, DSS. I didn't make this up. And people lighting candle for Prezi because the Gary Griffith and they take the money and all this thing. So we could light candles for Prezi and do vigil and sign petition for Prezi or Preez or whatever his name is. But is a problem to get $20 to Errol Fabian, boy, because he asked before, because he run for a different political party. And I telling somebody online, if you know what it means to Errol, if you ever listen to him talking about why he going up in his own area, and I saw something saying too, when he decided to go up as an independent in his own area, a lot of his sponsorship and advertising and thing went down. There's these politics in this country. We know what that is. That we saw against him for, I don't understand. We saw against him for that. I wonder, boy. I wonder if Errol would go up in a yellow seat, if people would be so upset, or if Errol had do the Eddie Hart thing and represent for the PNM and win that seat. But then again, you would not have no problems. If you was in the parliament, if you was in the parliament as red or yellow, you would not have no financial problems. Parliamentarians don't end up in these situations. They must be all right and thing, you know what I mean? Everybody good. But I just find it's an odd thing. And it's a strange thing for me to see people putting Errol in the place, boy. They say, boy, you went and get your own loan and all. Yes, it's true. And at the same time saying, rest in peace, Sprangalang and thing. And all them archives with Sprangalang that was held by Errol Fabian and Gael Studios would have been gone. And to move a step beyond the archives and thing, there have a youth I know named Shabba. I will tell all of you I meet Shabba too, right? I just happened to go on Instagram Live. And I mean, while we're talking Instagram Live, you know what we had to stop? If you know your Instagram Live is only a one person, don't do no live now, just FaceTime, man. I hate when I press live and it's just you and me now and I can't leave and don't do it, right? But anyway, I bounce up Shabba and them on the Instagram Live and I see Shabba. Shabba is a youth who I know who always progressive. He like progress and like youths and you know what I mean? And I just happened to come across something and I realized like he doing some kind of a show. So I'm trying to message on the live and say, boy, Shabba is the one I ain't seen years. So I was like, Shabba, yo, link up, you know what I mean? Like, do something. I seen you doing something. It look like it gears towards you something. Involvement in that. Whatever you're doing, I'm with you. And I don't know if it's the person who was doing the live, who holding the live. It's like he talking on TV, but somebody doing a live of him doing the show, if that makes sense. And I trying to get the person attention to say, hey, tell Shabba is Corey, tell him link me, you know what I mean? Give me a number for him and thing. Up to now, I can't get a number for him. Andre's name, Shabba. Only while I'm watching the live, and the name of their company is the Mad Company, and it seemed to be some nice things they're doing, but I'm trying to find out, like, where is this thing available? Because the live not giving me the full thing of who he talking to and where's the thing. Only to hear the person who holding the camera eventually say, Uncle Errol, so. And then I realized the same Errol Fabian at this stage where he could put up his foot and done with all this and forget everybody. Still they're fighting up, creating a platform for youths is what he's always done. Create the space, create the platform. You know what I mean? He had the studio in St. James at a point in time opposite the pause. And somebody was telling me that they saw a production going on there and he was like, so when it's going to show on Gael, and he's like, nah, this is not on Gael, this is their own production. He says, so wait, you let them use his studio and it's not your thing? He said, boy, why doing here is for people, you know. I ain't doing this for myself. This is a space where people could come once as creators and we're working with the culture and thing, we're pushing it. And I mean, to see how we live, I'm glad to see him get the help he need, financially that is. And I hope that it continue to make sure, I hope the help go beyond just paying off the loan for him, because the help that will really be needed is to boost the advertising and thing in the channel, help, and myself too. I was glad that my brethren Maurice Burke reached out to me from Slice Bread. With a real progressive thing too, Maurice is always a progressive dude too, and Maurice was like, listen, Corey, we creating content and thing. Why we don't approach Gael with the content we created? And try to build our audience into their audience. I find it's a real good suggestion, because it's like, beyond just giving to help you get back your stuff or hold off the bank a little bit, I find it's a real good suggestion to, because I feel like I know what I want to do with content creation and making local content available and doing it. So I might as well reach out to somebody like him and see what we could do together. And think he has plenty more experience than me in this world. And if I could figure out something, we will figure out something. And there are plenty content creators. I always try to shout them out here. So I'll see how much of us we could get together and go down by a man and see if we could revive. It would be nice to see a show like this, or a show like what Maurice doing with Slice Bread and thing. It would be nice to see them things on Gael on some form to as I guess what I'm trying to say is continuity to what Sprangalang and Errol Fabian and these guys had done. Now, as I talk about Shabba there, right? It have a story I really forget to tell last week. Man is forgetting. Sometimes I write on these things in an episode and I forget. Because I talk all about how they cancel Carnival. And it's really in looking at a live this week from Rhoda Barrett, hosted by Rhoda Barrett, News Source, right? Find Rhoda on Facebook and follow News Source, because she's do some interesting things. And this week, coming off of what I spoke about last week with the cancellation of Carnival, what was said as a just straight up cancellation. Ruda got Omari Ashby and Rosalind Gabriel to come on the show. Now, if you know anything about me and Mass and them thing, I watched that whole show emotional. When they're talking about Mass and Omari had always had this, from the time they say Mass cancel, he had this thing where he said, you cannot stop Carnival. And I agree with him 100%. Carnival is more than an event or a parade of the bands or a season. If you go back to the history of Carnival and where it evolved from or where it started, it's really a celebration of our escape. It was long before it was a physical escape. It was a spiritual and a mental escape. And that's exactly why I feel around Carnival time. So I don't tell all the press already about this Carnival cancelling thing. But I think that Rhoda did a real good job bringing to. I wish the show could have been 3 hours. That's my only complaint. Because, I mean, Rosalind Gabriel, when you hear her talk about Mass and thing, you just have to listen, boy. She's somebody you just have to stop and listen to, because the amount of experience she's talking with her, and she's talk slow and deliberately. You have to listen when she talk. And she was just talking about being a child and growing up on Stone Street and running out on Stone Street, right, by the ice factory by Woodbrook there, right, if anybody can remember where it is, just before you reach in Tong Tong. And she says she used to run up on Arpita Avenue to see the Mass, to see what they made, to see what George Bailey do. And I mean, it was just a little bit emotional for me. I watched the whole thing like, wow, it's amazing to hear them talk. And then to hear Omari Ashby too, who have his own like a young historian, and his own take on Carnival and what it means to us and why we must commemorate it. And he's not saying must like if he's saying what we should do, he's like, we will. There's no way it will pass, and a whole country like Trinidad will just disappear Carnival time. So it will be interesting for me to see, because I don't say I'm not going no virtual fete. Fete is a big part of Carnival for me. I'm not playing no virtual Mass. There are some things I don't want to do at all, honestly. And they were talking a lot about the virtual Carnival, right? They have some things I don't want to do, boy. And the virtual Mass and fete, I feel it would be too depressing for me, to be honest. And Omari was saying that there might be some way to have panorama and to have calypso tents. I think that's true. Because once we socially distance and we far enough apart, and of course, I'm saying all this in the context of we seeing some reduced numbers in the COVID, at least less people getting it today than who get it yesterday here, which is usually indicate the backside of a curve where they say we had to flatten the curve. But I don't know. It's according to what the pandemic's saying and what we could really do at that time. But I believe it should be commemorated in some way. And I mean, the creatives in the Carnival seem to be focused on it and trying to figure out what they will do and how they will make it something. And I like what Mary said, to package it. It's not necessarily packaging it for some foreigner. We had to package it for ourselves. You know what I mean? The foreigners will come or gravitate towards it. We could get to send one for white chocolate. But we package it for ourselves and for the diaspora who are abroad and can't come home. I can't imagine how they're feeling. If you're accustomed coming home every Carnival, I can't imagine what it feels like to have to stay there in the cold, knowing it and no escape, no. That's what the Carnival is about, that escape. And if it's not happening at all, well, according to Mary, it could happen. But at least you have something that you know you'll be able to escape to. And they were talking about the musicians and saying as well that the musicians might well put out something, I hope so. I hope they have something we could enjoy for 2021. It's enough topic to sing about. I know Calypsonians go have a field day. But even something like the Marche Gras, that is something that I don't mind watching virtually at all. Or if they have the costume, I'm not sure if anybody would want to put out a king and a queen. But that's something that's not going to cause you don't need a whole crowd, and that could be enjoyed virtually. Extempo competition, young kings, all those things I feel like they could be done. We could find ways to do them and commemorate this Carnival, even if to be able to look back at it for years from now, like how I was suggesting the Mass and May, the Rainorama thing. If we could look back years from now and identify somebody who won during the COVID time or what we did and be proud of it, it would be something. But going back to Shabo, Omari says something in that thing that make me remember what I was supposed to talk about in the last episode. He was saying that even the people who are against carnival and who don't partake in carnival, they build a thing around carnival, like the camp and things. So I don't know how I managed to forget last week to talk about my experience with church camp and thing. I'm a real church man, you know. I think I churched out. That's why I'm religious and thing now. But when I go church camp back in the day, we used to go to a place named Victory Heights. Now, I never went carnival camp and my life was well balanced. So while I go in church camp and I crying and it's testimony and thing in Ebenezer Church and it's church camp time, I also play my own mass and so on when it's mass time. I ain't going no carnival camp. Camp for me used to be Easter and what they call summer camp. And I remember them times we used to go up Victory Heights. What Victory Heights is, boy, Cora side. I can't remember exactly where it is. Like up inside Five River. I don't even know. I can't remember. But Victory Heights is like a big campsite, and it was one of the things that helped shape me a lot too, boy. Like when you reach up in Victory Heights, there was serenity that it can't be matched down on the flat, boy. Because you're going all the way up to the top of a hill. And as you drive up, houses getting more and more scarce, and then you reach a big opening. And they had a huge, we used to call it auditorium. It's a big indoor space. The ceiling, the roof on that thing must be 20, 30 feet high. But picture the stadium roof. And under there is where we used to have all the activities and things. And they had some big, what they used to call iron donkey. Them tables you see in any jail show you ever watch where you see there were big metal sheet as a table and then some little iron parts of the chair. You can't move the chair or nothing. You had to climb onto that and sit down as it is. And we used to do everything there. We used to have lunch and dinner and breakfast and all the prayer and the church sessions and things used to be there. And it's like all the churches used to come together to do this camp. So I used to go Ebenezer. Ebenezer was like close to the Oval, right? By Woodbrook. They just off, like if a block, remember they used to sell punch and pie and thing on the main road, if you know the punch and pie spot? It was just a block from there. It have a little church. They have a pharmacy right next to it now. And that is where I used to go Sunday school. I grew up in all kind of religion. You know. My grandmother used to carry me St. Agnes on a morning. And it changed from St. Agnes to St. Crispin's at some point. And then when we come home, we used to go, it's a quick turnaround. And then you had to go Unity. Unity used to be up Abercrombie Street, opposite the square. It used to be a cinema and thing. We used to go there. Me even know what kind of church Unity is. St. Agnes and St. Crispin was Anglican. And then evening time now, I used to go Ebenezer, Sunday school. And there's our bus coming to pick me up and thing. The real McCoy, you know, a little minivan, the pastor. I don't know what you used to call him if it's a pastor. A man named Hector. Salute to Hector. I don't know if Hector's still alive or what. But Hector used to pass and pick us up in a little minivan, like a maxi. All the children in the area. Me say Morrisburg, I tell you about. And we used to go Ebenezer on a Sunday for 3 o'clock every Sunday. And Sunday school is an hour, and then we jump on the bus, and the bus bring us back home and think, oh, good times, you know, we're a heavy Bible study, you know. I don't even know what kind of church Ebenezer was either. But whoever the church was, all the churches of that religion used to come together and do a camp in Victory Heights. So when you go up on camp now, you used to see all kind of people from all kind of church and you meeting new people. And it was a kind of vibe, it was an exciting thing. And when we get up there, they used to do, it's a full week of activities. Your time is not your own when you go on camp. They have a boys' dorm, and to get to the boys' dorm, I mean, where the auditorium was, the girls' dorm is, you could see it from the auditorium and you could walk right there. The boys' dorm, you had to walk quite down the road, down a hill, cross a bridge, walk back up a hill, and you end up in the they want to keep the boys and the girls so far from one another. They know it's mayhem. And anytime man's had to meet women in there. And they used to have the camp counselors, man, like Froggy and Nutsman and boy, a bunch of people, I can't remember my name, Guy Smiley. And they used to split us up in a few different ways. Like we had like a house, like our schools used to have houses. We had houses for the camp. But it was probably named after Bible verses and thing, you know, it's going to church, right? It couldn't be biblical. You ain't going straight too far. And then when you go to the dorm now, based on the age of the boys, they used to have different dorms. One building we in, right? But they have dorm 1, dorm 2, dorm 3, all the way up to dorm 5 or 6, I think, where they have older boys. And the camp age must be from as young as 10, 11 and thing, all the way up to teenage, like 15, 16, 17, I suppose. And the whole activity around camp was a vibe because it was very, very structured. When you get up in the morning, you have morning devotion right by your bunk. It's a little double decker in. And when you wake up from your bunk, you sit down right there, you pull your Bible and you do a little devotion and thing. We had a counselor named Froggy. Froggy was my boy, you know. And we do a little devotion and thing. Then you come up. And then when you reach up there, it's exercise. Everybody exercising out in the courtyard. And one house was responsible for setting the table, all the little cups and things. They used to have a massive, I don't even know what it's called, a huge thing with tea. And it had a lever where you could lean it over and pour it in each one of the mugs. And I'm talking, inside them, you had 40 of them big tables. Each one of them tables sitting 8 people. So you had to pour out your mugs of tea for everybody and put them out, and the plates and the cups and thing. And I mean, I'm thinking about it now. For us to be out there exercising and getting breakfast so early in the morning, all 6, 7 o'clock breakfast serving. Somebody had to be up there all 5 o'clock doing this thing, boy. I mean, concerts really used to make it into a thing. And then after that, you would do, of course, you had to pray before you exercise, then pray before you eat, and pray after you eat. And then to have some kind of activity like, I remember we used to do screen printing and the jerseys. And we used to have to do a play. Like it was real competitive too with the houses. So if it's not a sports day you have or different activities, every day will give you points like you're doing hiking. We had arts and craft. Even the pool time, they had a pool up there and used to do swimming, so it had swim races. Boy, it was really something, you know, boy, to get out there and go up there for the thing. And the big thing for the week used to be the Thursday night, used to have a banquet night. The banquet night, you had to walk with one Sunday best when you come, right? It's Sunday, you're reaching up and you're going home Saturday morning. So you had to walk with one Sunday best or you're out clothes. And that is a banquet night where it's set up like a formal dinner and thing, boy. And you had to ask somebody to go to the banquet night, boy. I don't tell you, I covered already, you know. So a man like me, they put for banquet night now. No, I covered there, but I want whoever is the best girl, outright. I want whoever everybody wants in camp, that is who I want. So boy, 1 year I go on camp and that person was a Daffy Beckles or Neckles. Some kind of heckles. And boy, a Daffy nice. When I tell you a Daffy nice, you know schoolboy nice? Wait, let me tell you something about schoolboy nice, right? When you're in school and you find a woman nice, that woman have a aura, you know, and a glow. You see a whole vibe coming with that woman, boy, and you're melting. And that was a Daffy, boy. A Daffy nice shit. One long plait of Daffy used to wear long. Boy, you're frightened. That's a Daffy. To be honest with you, me and Daffy was cool and thinking, but I don't think I ever asked a Daffy to go nowhere with a banquet night, no? I was to settle for the second best, but I was melting a little too much. Every time I can't talk, I'm melting so much I can't talk. So I had to deal with some second. Oh God, I can't say second best. If I went, if you're listening to this and I went banquet night with you, you was the best, right? Don't listen to that thing. But anyway, I talk more all that to say that even the churches we organize around the carnival, like the getaway and the camps and the beach runs and, you know, even setting up the beach camps and thing. So I'm eager to see what these stakeholders come up with, because Rosalind Gabriel was basically saying that, and Amari agreed as well, that the government had to create some infrastructure or help with the infrastructure for this thing to happen. Much like they would have put Point Lisas in place because oil and gas would be important to the country as a whole. I think it's important for us to have the infrastructure in place. I don't know whether it's a digital platform or whatsoever. And let me see what we could make Carnival into, including the church people, wherever the camp is and thing. It would be sad if it just passes at 2 days where we all go to work. We had to make a little song for church people to bad talk and say that the devil make that song, like when they make Jambi and things. They used to real pray that also we back in the day, though. When you see the song real popular and we go up Victory Heights, they what? They pray that also you. Yes, when you come back, you hate soca when you reach back down the hill. But it would be nice to see the whole thing turn into something of a festival, whatever version of the festival it is, and it will be an occasion to mark if 2022 happened to be a carnival when that time comes. But the digital thing looked like the way to go, and I mean, coming off of us a budget today, and you know, even before I get to the budget, right? One of the funny, I'm going all the way back now to Errol Fabian, okay? I'm so vexed during the week. One of the funny things about that Errol Fabian thing was everybody saying 360,000 could buy so much a laptop. And we come and we see now in the budget, they put aside a certain amount of money for the laptops. I just don't understand us. And then Marshall Montano, salute to him, and his foundation came out and gave 300 laptops to school children who are underprivileged. So it's like, as don't understand why things have to be one or the other. So forget Errol 360, give people 360 for the laptops, and whatever happened to Errol happen. Why we can't find ways to do both? Why we can't help people if people need help? And coincidentally, I think I talked about him on one of these podcasts, and boy, DJ Scooby, I think came up with him today saying he trying to raise funds now to save his home. So if you can contribute, just Google DJ Scooby, you'll see the GoFundMe come up. If you can contribute, help. Scooby's a legend. Scooby's a jet. Scooby, and not just that, Scooby is one of the best guys I've ever met. So I will reach out to him and think, well, please, if you could find ways to contribute to him and think, don't let things fall by the wayside, so man. And everybody can help everybody, but everybody could help somebody, right? So salute to Marshall for that 300 laptops, and I'm very, very happy to see that. Of course, we're Trinis, so when you scroll down in the comments now, they had to say, it's what kind of laptop? Why is 300? You take 2 million on anything? What Bungie doing? Why we like this? Why we can't just be real happy because we was upset that the 360 gonna buy some laptops. Everything has been compared to laptop price for the last 6 to 8 weeks. Everything. All you hear is laptop price. So Marshall gives some laptops and the government set aside some money for some laptops. So at least, and it wouldn't solve the problem. I've said many, many times that they should have never stopped the laptop program when they were given free laptops, but that done already, so some other things was put in place. So let's see if we could go through this budget and see what we really have. What is the real situation in these streets? In this Colmanburg New Street. So property tax, that was a big one, right? They say they're going to collect the property tax from now, so all who have property, if they didn't take it away from you, you have to pay tax on the property, right? Errol, sort out yourself. Make sure don't close off the GoFundMe till you get your tax money. I shouldn't laugh at that, right? But don't close off the GoFundMe till you get your tax money and thing, because these people don't want you to come back to them again. Some of the things that are a little scary, if you ask me, is they say they didn't say nothing about the we paying and tech, but they said that they have to review it. So, I mean, they didn't change it, but they said that it may be changed or they'll have to review it. And that could be a little worrying. I don't know about Oli, but I find the cost of electricity going up already. I find it's pay real plenty for electricity bill that I didn't used to pay before. And it's slowly creeping up. And they also said that, they're going to change over the gas stations to private ownership. I am all for that. I like private ownership. I don't think the government should be too involved in nothing. So if NP, if they still have the own NP, let NP be our operator or whatsoever, and then let the gas stations do what they had to do and run as private businesses. But of course, the flip side to that is when they remove all tariffs and then they put it as private businesses, I'm pretty sure that gas stations will be able to set their own price for petrol, like we see in several other markets throughout the Caribbean and internationally. So every gas station chain, I'm not sure if they will still be labeled NP or if they will have their own names and that kind of thing, but they may be able to charge their own price. Now, to keep it competitive, you really should be within a range. It shouldn't be too different every gas station that you go to. But if we end up in a situation where we see in Shell gas station and Texaco and different brands come in and own the gas stations, you're probably going to see differences in price there if all the tariffs removed. It was 50 million given for laptops, right? So that happened, and they're saying that in the context of what they had said initially in the campaign or the manifesto, where we're going to a digital economy, there's going to be free Wi-Fi, 4G and 5G across the country so that people can access it. I'm really, really happy about that because we have, I mean, while I'm saying that people talking about laptops all the time is really an issue. I was talking to Cassia from Victory Lab the other day, and she was saying the same thing. She's trying to put some things in place to get Wi-Fi for some people who are way out in Blanche shares who mightn't be able to get it themselves. And that is a real issue. I'm hearing that a lot. Like people who, they have more than one child home and it's one laptop and those types of things. I mean, If the Wi-Fi situation and the laptop situation could be alleviated, that would be great. I mentioned on this podcast, why not remove the taxes and the tariffs from mobile phones and things? Because sometimes the phone is the way we accessing all the information and not the laptops. I remember reading somewhere in Trinidad that mobile penetration so much higher than internet penetration. Well, they went ahead and do that too. They remove it from phones. So iPhone 12, I'm coming. But it's really for the children, right? So that they could do the phone, what not and so on. What else they do in the budget, boy? Or they raised the tax threshold. So before, if you was making, I think it was 72,000 a year or 6,000 a month, you wasn't paying any tax on that. But now, if you're making 7,000, you're not paying tax on that. And if you're making more than 7,000, you're not paying tax on your first 7,000. So if you're making 10,000, you're only paying tax on 3. I hope that makes some sense. So that's pretty, I mean, I guess, I don't know what to think about them things sometimes. I feel like you get a little extra money in your pocket, but if at the same time gas prices and electricity prices likely to rise, and then they add VAT back on luxury items like apples and grapes. I love luxury. You know, in a recession when apples and grapes fall in the luxury list. But no more peaches and cream and champagne and caviar and all these nice things. VAT back on that. I suppose that makes sense. But I mean, all in all, it was a pretty decent budget. I find it was real in alignment with what they said they would have done in the manifesto. And one of the things that I find that this government tends to do, that I keep in my eye on, is that in the budget, they try, is conservative. It's not a whole lot of cuts. We know what the situation is with the economy, and we know what the situation with COVID put on top of that. But the budget, it tends to be gentle. And then the mid-year reviewers tend to add on a few things that, so while they say electricity, they ain't say nothing yet. The mid-year review might well be where they make the adjustment to electricity. As the typical thing we do where we run to full gas because the price of gas going up. Somebody was saying the gas station's empty. As my partner Nico said, but nobody had nowhere to go, so we were rushing to put gas for it. Don't matter. Everybody home. So I mean, it was a decent budget all around. I was worried. I suppose everybody was, but I find like they managed it well. Colin Burts, I mean, they could have used a little help with the Zoom call. They tried to, I don't know what they do, if it's a virtual meeting or what they try to do the budget with, but it could have looked a little more lively, man. Sometimes the budget, you must look like it's a hope. You know what I mean? There's really this budget, it's so grim, the background grim. Sometimes the background like it moving. I don't know if it was a next earthquake or what, but I find it's time that they make the budget, make it into something positive, like the outlook. You know what I mean? Where it's not just this dreary thing and this dreary politician come to read blah, 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 blah. We kind of fed up with it overall. But I mean, other than that, that's pretty much it. There's just one of them interesting weeks, and I guess we will hear by the end of the week. I know they usually do it by Friday. I saw Kamala Prasad Bissessar do a response, but it was the talking with the mask thing. It was so hard to decipher what she was saying. But I'm sure that they have their budget response plan. They usually do that the Friday after, but now I don't know what will happen there. So interesting week ahead. I'm looking forward to see what happened with that budget responses. I'm definitely watching that. And then I seen that my boy Guy Griffith was supposed to go on vacation, but they say he can't go no more because they started to call some name about who in the defense force in the DSS. and then the people in DSS now start to call some name of which police in the DSS and who they pay $240,000 for security. They make sure and they say not all at once. So I guess he had a salary that add up to $240,000 to come out and what. So it will be interesting to see what happened in that overtime. So I didn't realize, based on what people said from the last episode, I didn't realize how much people abroad didn't know anything about this susu thing that happened down here. It's like a lot of these things that they call in susu. Some people, they're saying as a susu, it's looking a lot more like a pyramid scheme. But the one with the DSS looking like the biggest one. And somebody tell me they have one where is upscale people and it's 39,000 people who in it. I don't know. But from what I understand with DSS now, the thing is you could pay in 10,000 and get back or pay in 15,000, you could get back 90,000. And you had to reinvest some and all this kind of thing. But a lot of them crashing. Well, Chanel told you all about that last week. But I'm waiting to see what happened with DSS now, because now that the police so heavily involved, and some, like a body from the UK was hired to help with this, I believe, and they now pointing out rogue police and rogue defense force officers. It's starting to look a little bleak. And if your money tie up in the DSS, I can understand why you go want to light a little candle and thing, because it could be nice to get back your hand first, before all the Kankalang break out. It would be nice to get back. And a lot of people who in it, from what I understand, they're going back in. So you went in the 7, you collect this. You went in the this, you went back to the 5, you collect a next hand. You collect a next hand and a next hand. And they're trying to see if they could collect the big. Imagine when the thing reach 15,000 and you're getting back 90. That when it go bust, but when you get some money, you could do something with. But I don't know. It seems as though they want to crack down on them, but it's so tricky to me, because if I decide to invest my money somewhere with somebody, and I guess that's why they had to call it a susu, because if you call it an investment with interest and thing, they have procedures and things that you're supposed to do with the central bank to make sure that you are legitimate and could collect people money. But when you call it things like susu and things, them things have been running, susus run all the time. So I don't know what the bank could do and thing. And that's something I'm keeping my eye on for next week. I'm hoping, you know me, I want everybody to work out good and everybody be happy. But that situation, again, like a lot of these susus that Chanel talk about, it ain't looking like it going to have the happiest ending. So it is what it is. So we'll see what happens. And I want to leave with a song. I want to dedicate this week to, of course, Sprangalang, to my guy Alvon, to men like Grovey. I want to dedicate this episode to them, and also to people who, I mean, we talk about COVID all the time, and I mean, I guess we're learning to live with it, but we can't lose sight of the fact that in Trinidad now, they're talking about 82 people dying from COVID. So this song is for them 82 people too, and if you lose somebody, this song is in dedication to them.
Somebody dear, give us cause to shed a tear and mourn, for they are gone. Now all that's left is a faint memory, based on the theme of a strange melody. Still, we must think of them and recall their image with pride, telling people from deep inside, this is dedicated to those who died. But in it, I'll always remember jumping when a big band passed, playing mass, sugary, peppery, he was never ever one for class. But from Innis, wherever you are, compare just for you. Are we gonna give them real thunder this year? Everyone I know, some good day will have to go right back from where they came. But good or bad, we must try all the same, not to be too sad or heap scorn on their name. And every girl and boy who are sharing my sympathy, I must tell you this song is just dedicated to memories. George Bailey, I'll always remember jumping when a big band passed, playing big mass, sugary, peppery, he was never ever one for class. George Bailey, wherever you are, brother, just for you. And we gonna give them real thunder this year. How many have known a friend playing mass down to the end who will never again? And though we play now and then, thoughts will stray to that dear one who has since passed away. So for this carnival, while you jump in and take a break, try and take in this song I made to remember for old time's sake. Rudolph Charles, I'll always remember jumping when the steel band passed, playing mass. Sugary, peppery, he was never ever one for class. Dear Rudy, wherever you are, compared just for you, are we gonna give them real thunder this year?
Yeah, well, that's it for this week. That's dedicated again to Sprangalang legend, Alvon, old St. James legend, Grovey, a legend in sports and school sports and among youths, and anybody who lost somebody. So I have a few things planned, given that the 10th of this month, 10th of October, is World Mental Health Day. And I thought it important, given the times, to reach out to some people who are professionals in mental health and get some of that conversation started. Like I always say, it's take me a little time to absorb some of these things I read, and one of the things we doing it topic by topic, and believe that one of the things we will talk about is that beheading of that woman in Pinal. It was. I read the article and I went through it, and I'm sure you all would have seen it before, but I think I need professional help in talking about things like that, and so just kind of explore like why we like this as a society. So no better time than when we build it around World Mental Health Day. So look out for that on Friday. But until then, next week.